And now, Reverend Eleesabeth Hager.
Thank you. Thank you. So Valentine's Day is Tuesday, but today I'm going to talk about love. Notice I said but. Yeah, thank you. Because if love is a ship, it is the ship. Love I'm talking about is not the TV Love Boat version comedy, if you're old enough to remember that, or online dating. Not that kind of love, with all the attendant misunderstandings of what romantic love is supposed to be like. I'm talking about the love ship, this one, this embodiment, this one in which we are all time traveling, this human experience. It also happens to be Unity's first principle. God is all. God is all there is. Only one, only presence, one power, period. That's it. My favorite name for God is love, because it gently moves us away from the patriarchal notions of God as a white guy in the sky. And the name is also both immanent and transcendent, very intimate. Abba, Father, here, right here, among us, presence, the beloved, and also transcendent, everywhere. The force, the field, everywhere. It is what I understand God to be. But there are so many names to try to comprehend it all. But for the purposes of this talk, love is what we'll work with. Also, because it's Valentine's Day. And I can't imagine a better Valentine that one is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, all power, all knowledge, all consciousness itself, sexy. I am playfully calling God my Valentine because it's such a great match. Because I am love too, so are you. We are all love, which also happens to be our second principle. Yes. You are love. You are divine. Oh, and by the way, you are God too. Holy moly, I am again grateful that I am a woman in the 21st century when they don't burn us at the stake. For the act of claiming that I am God, divine. I mean, how are the authorities going to keep it down once they know that they're God too? I can see why they might have wanted to be a little obscure on this point for the last 2,000 years. But Jesus was pretty clear. The kingdom of God is within. How much infinity do you need to be infinity? It's just math. Think about that. You can't divide infinity and not get infinity. You can't divide God and not get the whole of God. And what about love? I remember Reverend Deanne talking about love done in the world is never lost. It always returns to you, right? Sounds kind of like Einstein's law of the conservation of energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, but transformed from one form to another. My husband thinks that it's never a talk unless I mention Einstein. And it's true. But it makes sense, though, right? It's the place we all come from and the one that we're all returning to. As Ram Dass famously said, we're all just walking each other home. Love flows as divine wisdom, and it grows through all of reality. It is the first principle of unity. It's also process theology for any of you out there that care. It flows through us. It is the second principle, which is pretty much, I'm paraphrasing, tag you're it. However, my talk today is about the third principle. What do we do with a Valentine that is all-powerful, knows us better than we know ourselves, and loves us unconditionally? We create life, a life that allows us to offer our unique gifts to the world, our authentic life. All the gifts that we have been given to be who we came here to be on this planet. We create with the focus of our emotions, and thoughts. The third principle is about co-creating with our divine partner. Wow. This ship, our embodiment. Love moves through us in this life and powers our ability to create. We co-create by 1, choosing our focus, and 2, being guided by our longings and discontents, because our desires are God-given. Ellen Davenport, in her book, The 5 Principles, likens this conscious use of our co-creative powers to cave dwellers discovering fire. The third principle governs our lives, whether we know it or not, whether we believe it or not. We are creating with every thought and feeling, scary and magnificent. Everybody breathe. The Buddha intuited and practiced this 2,500 years ago, and quantum science proves it with the observer effect in experiment and laboratories today. Is it a wave or is it a particle? That's really not the relevant question. What do you believe as the observer? What do you think? Your thoughts determine reality. This is both amazing and confusing. So the questions begin. If I'm creating, why am I not rich and happy? I never focused on getting sick. I didn't do that. My sister died young. That can't be my fault. But imagine the world we could create if we knew how to use this tool consistently and consciously. If love is a ship, many of us have fear-shaped holes in our seaworthiness. So what gets in the way? That's an easy answer, fear. Every human being has fears. They are both personal obstacles to our good and collective, which are inherited from our lineages. The first-person stories of our experience are in our lifetime. And then there are the stories we tell about those personal experiences, which may or may not be, may be oppressive in themselves. Much of what we do at Unity here is healing the stories that we tell ourselves, and telling better, more authentic ones. We all have them, victim stories of not enough, false economies of if you get more, I'm gonna get less. These are personal stories, first-person stories, which keep us fearful, small, and separate. They get in our way. We are shaped into norms that are not our own. We are taught to be contortionists and pretzels to conform. Ugh. We are not taught that we were divine and loved just the way we are. No one cared about my longings and discontents or my gifts. The reward and the payoff, as if we conform, is belonging and not being alone, because human beings need community. So it is a powerful tool of control wielded to afflict a subset of the population who has been othered by their own others. We all hold unconscious stories of these personal traumas, but the deeper ones are inherited traumas, according to our unique lineages of DNA and race and gender, communities and culture. The traumas of not fitting into norms and not belonging. These stories are deeper, which we may not even be conscious of, but they are still there. They are embodied trauma. We hold them in our bodies, but they are not dormant. They affect our actions. These are error stories that also keep us small and fearful and separate from each other and God, because judging by appearance is about separation. Inherited stories of trauma are held in our bodies for generations, both the fear, but gratefully also the wisdom. There are stories that we inherit from many generations. These are deeper. They are historical traumas. New trauma research says that treating these deeper traumas is much different because they are embodied. Using only talk therapy does not access them because we hold them in our bodies, in tension and pain, and they trigger us in ways that are surprising. But we must know them to overcome them. There's a lot of new research on healing these PTSD type of embedded traumas, these embedded stories. One of these books is called My Grandmother's Hands by Resmaa Menakem, which focus on racial memories in our human bodies of oppression and pain. And that he holds that Black bodies in particular hold these deep unconscious memories of slavery and incarceration. And these kind of traumas take a different therapy to heal, an embodied one. This is what he says. Trauma is routinely passed from person to person, generation to generation through genetics, culture, family structures, and the biochemistry of egg, sperm, and womb. Trauma is literally in our blood. This is historical trauma. As our bodies are divinely made, their communication with us is greatly informative, if not sacred. We need to listen to our bodies to heal. What are they trying to tell us? Every pain tells a story. That's my yoga teacher. Self-dismissal is self-sabotage. Historical trauma comes as racial stories, but also gender stories. Historical trauma of race are generations old, but gender stories are much older, so old that in many cases they are invisible. The story of becoming more whole, more authentic with love as our ship is the story that Unity tells. But sometimes these stories that get in our way of our good are so deep that we need to blind ourselves to even see them. Gender is just such a soup in which we all swim. Justice is a blind audition to an orchestra. In our first Spiritually Feminine gather last month, Misa spoke eloquently and graciously about gender roles. She said this: from a young age, women are taught to be accountable to others, but not to themselves. Self-dismissal is self-sabotage. 100 years of vote for women has made a difference. But in many cases, 2,000 years of misogyny is so prevalent that women themselves may not even be able to see their own power. It has left such a deep lineage that sometimes we humans must blind ourselves to even see that it's there. We are not conscious of these stories until we are, they have power over us. In his book, Blink, The Power to Think Without Thinking, Malcolm Gladwell reports, and this is great, in the 1980s, that one particular orchestra, the Munich Philharmonic, decided, for other reasons than gender equality, to have blind screenings for auditions. They were ecstatic over the winner. That's the one we want, and they sent all the applicants home. Abby Conant had left the stage, was packing up, thinking that the one off note played, ruminating that the audition had been a failure, was packed up to go. Someone went to get Abby, and then the great disappointment ensued. Abby Conant was a woman. And then the backtracking and complaining began. Women cannot play in the Munich Philharmonic. Women cannot play the trombone. The trombone is a man's instrument. But as a fellow horn player confirmed, Abby can blow the house down. Blinding ourselves to the truth is sometimes the only way to see it. Blind screenings have since become common, and women in the symphony orchestra have made great strides since then. These erroneous stories of race and gender get in the way of our good, creating a life that fits us now and our unique gifts. What if we truly listen to our longings and our discontents as guidance, listening to our own voice and trusting God to be our navigation partner? Unity has retaught me to lead with my heart. When we lead with love, we co-create with God. It's like ETAC guidance. ETAC is the intuitive oral tradition of Micronesian navigation, which uses no instruments or instrument panels and has been working for them for millennia. Outrigger canoes paddled by Palau masters travel a mapless ocean using the intuitive ETAC guidance. Like other navigators, they use stars and swells and seasons and currents and creatures of the sea and air. But the focus and the force for a Palau master is that his canoe is stationary. The islands and the sea move around him. He is the core. He is the heart of it all. And he is as sure of this as we Westerners are that the canoe is moving. What if we used our longings and discontents as guidance? All of them. Shadow, light, all of it. The things we love, the things we don't love about ourselves. What if we listened? What if we trusted God to be our navigation partner? What mountains could we move, or oceans might we cross to be in true partnership with the divine? We co-create our reality with this ability to listen to our heart center and take action. This ability to listen to our inner guidance is the difference between persistence, which we need to offer our gifts to the world, and stubbornness, which is childish and willful and insists that what is not. Happily, God as love has a better curriculum than that of our human error stories. And if we are lucky, we learn the power of God as love in action and the power of being in a thoughtful community. We see better when we see together. Here is a hopeful quote by a woman author of the past who overcame barriers with some gender-bending rules in the early 1980s in Paris. It's never too late to be what you might have been, George Sand. What is our purpose? To learn about and to eventually be love, according to the shape of our gifts. If women have glass ceilings, Black women have them double paned. So I would like to end with this perfect example of how love and the nurturing of our unique gifts moves us forward. Serena Williams, who is a stellar model of forgiveness and faith and focus to do what is uniquely hers to do, just as we can. Whatever you can become, you become in your head first. Is that not a perfect restatement of the third principle? She recounted this in her book, On the Line, but it was the remembered wisdom of her mother, her personal lineage. Her parents obviously loved her, believed in her, and imparted faith and principle to start her in the right direction. In 1998, Serena and her older sister, Vanessa, have redefined power, aesthetics, and the diversity of the game. In a recent Christian Science Monitor article summarizing her career as she retires from the court, they said this: the greater measure of her impact may be in her mental presence, that she modeled individuality over group identity, forgiveness over resentment, and legitimacy over disadvantage. Before the Williams sisters, the small club breaking the color line in big-name pro athletics was all male. Jackie Robinson, Arthur Ashe, Tiger Woods. In the tournament in Indian Wells, California in 2001, the sisters were taunted during their events for their race and physical strength. Serena won, but she refused to return for 14 years. But guided by her Christian faith, she wrestled with the power of forgiveness. On her return, she said this: I have faith that the fans at Indian Wells have grown with the game and know me better than they did in 2001. And together, we have a chance to write a different ending. Using love as our navigator, we are moving, perhaps slowly, but we are moving toward wholeness and unapologetic acceptance in these embodied time-traveling ships that we're on and in, that we are. Together we have a chance. Breathe that in as the music team comes up, as we prepare for our meditation. Because it's not about what we've achieved in life, but about what we have understood, integrated, and digested.